What up, Space Fam? Goes in here from Anime Upper, and I'm back at it again to discuss another hype Demon Slayer topic. Today, I wanted to specifically take a look at Tanjiro's dad, one of the most interesting and underrated characters in the series, so make sure to stay tuned for that. If you do enjoy these Demon Slayer videos and want to keep them coming, you know what to do. Channel the Demon Slayer within and smash that like button with no mercy. Remember, smashing that like button is strongest Demon Slayer energy and passing is scared Muzan energy, so choose wisely. If you haven't, make this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications, or you will miss future Demon Slayer videos and updates, including juicy updates about new seasons. And now, without further ado, let's jump into it, spoilers and all. We get a lot of information about Tanjiro's dad during a flashback that takes place while Tanjiro and Giyu are fighting Akaza. That memory is tied to Tanjiro gaining full access to the transparent world and the selfless state, a state that allows him to completely outclass Upper Moon 3 Akaza, if only temporarily. Thus, since he learned this from his dad, it's already implied that his dad was a beast. However, up to this point, we didn't see his dad actually fight someone or something. Sure, he could dance throughout the night without getting tired even though he was sick, which is very impressive, but we didn't actually see if he could translate that into combat skills. In this flashback though, we will see exactly that. Akaza, once beat by selfless state Tanjiro, will say it was like he was fighting a plant, and this flashback starts with Tanjiro saying his father was like a plant. So if anyone's compared to a plant in Demon Slayer, you know it's because they're OP. When Tanjiro compares his father to a plant, the implication is that he learned to maintain this selfless state, which Akaza called the domain of supremacy, aka the pinnacle of martial arts that Akaza had been seeking his whole life. Yoriichi, the strongest Demon Slayer in history, was similar to this too, and we're going to see over the course of this video that Tanjiro's father actually had much more in common with the strongest Demon Slayer in history than Tanjiro did, suggesting he was even more fit to be the chosen one than Tanjiro. But we'll get into the specifics of that later. Like Yoriichi, Tanjiro describes his dad as not being temperamental at all and always calm. Having that stoic thing going on is definitely something that is associated with supreme strength in this series. Even when Tanjiro's dad got sick before he died, he was the same, still calm right to the end. When Tanjiro thinks of his dad, he remembers his gentle smile and calm voice like the streamlet of a river. Just as with the selfless state, Tanjiro's dad is being associated with nature here, like he's part of it, not separate from it. That goes into Buddhist philosophy, and in Demon Slayer, it's definitely a sign of someone being very strong. We then get into the Hinokami Kagura, aka the dance of the fire god. Kid Tanjiro asked his dad, who's called Tanjuro, what Tanjiro was thinking of as he danced. It's explained that the Kamado house performed that dance at the beginning of every year for generations. It was demanding, lasting from sunset to sunrise. There are 12 routines performed before sunrise, repeated hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of times. And if you haven't noticed yet, this is like the perfect training for beating Muzan. You repeat the routines, which are in fact the sun-breathing forms, until the sun comes up, by which time, if you were fighting Muzan, Muzan will be burned by the sun. Within this dance lies the key to beating Muzan, including the fact that the 13th form, as we find out later, is connecting the 12 forms in a ring and repeating them over and over again. When done right, it's like the ultimate unstoppable endless combo move. Back to Tanjiro being concerned about his dad. Since he's worried about Tanjiro's health, he says if it's hard for his dad, he will take his place starting next year. Thus, Tanjiro offers to take over and do the grueling dance ritual. However, surprisingly, Tanjiro's dad says there's no need. For the last few years, despite his illness, he hasn't felt that the dance was difficult. Imagine that, not feeling like it is difficult to dance from sunset to sunrise non-stop. That would even be borderline impossible for a healthy person, and yet Tanjiro's sick dad can do it without difficulty at this point. He continues saying it's strange. He learned the dance from his dad when he was younger, healthier, and stronger than now. Yet, he ran out of breath and found it hard. He thinks it's probably because he made a lot of unnecessary movements. He emphasizes the importance of proper breathing and control and making the most efficient moves to exert the most strength. Once he figured out how to do that, his head became clear and it was much easier. He explains that in the beginning you must learn the moves and sensibilities. You open your 5 senses, become conscious of your own body down to each and every blood vessel. This period is truly strenuous, and you will think that no matter how much you struggle, you will not be able to go further. However, after you have learned and absorbed many things, you cut away what is unnecessary. You leave only what is necessary in your movement and close yourself off. He says when people try to listen closely, they close their eyes. And similarly in this case, you focus on what is most necessary in the moment. Before long, you become able to open and close the blood vessels and muscles throughout your body as quickly and easily as blinking. And then you can open an illuminated path. When your head becomes clear, you begin to see the transparent world. However, he insists that you only reach this domain because you push yourself to the limits of your strength. It's interesting they use the word domain there, the exact same word Akaza used. So clearly Tanjiro's dad had reached this domain of supremacy and he was able to maintain it. If he wasn't using it all the time, then we can at least assume he was using it from sunset to sunrise, and that's how he was able to keep dancing without difficulty. Considering that Tanjiro only just accesses the selfless state against Akaza and can't even maintain it for long, it's reasonable to assume that Tanjiro's dad, even sick, was stronger than Tanjiro, even though Tanjiro is confirmed to be above Hashira level at this point. This is an insane level of strength, reminiscent of Yoriichi's, that I think few people expected this non-swordsman to have. And as if to confirm to us that Tanjiro was good at fighting and not just dancing, we then get a scene of Tanjiro's dad confronting a giant bear. This was just 10 days before his dad died, so he's doing all this while very sick, which is important to keep in mind. It's kind of like how Yoriichi, even as an old man, was able to fight like he was still in his prime against Upper Moon 1 Kokushibo, even while he was breathing his dying breath from old age. Once people reach this level, it seems like they can fight like they're in their prime right up to the moment they die. Back to the bear, and it had already eaten someone on the next mountain over. Thus, out of caution, they put up ropes with bells so they would hear it coming and have time to prepare. Tanjiro woke up calmly, told Tanjiro to follow him, and they soon found themselves face to face with this giant bear. It was unrealistically big, like bigger than any demon I can think of. It could just be partially the angle shown, or Tanjiro's memories may exaggerate its size a bit, but it is massive and absolutely towers over Tanjiro's dad and is way wider. A quick Google search tells me on the bigger end, real bears get to only about 8 to possibly 10 feet long. So this is some mythical creature bear that Tanjiro's dad is facing. It's like the god of the mountain version of a bear. Tanjiro even says it was 9 shaku, an old Japanese unit of measurement, and the Viz translation tells me that 1 shaku equals 2.72 meters. That means this bear is, according to Tanjiro, about 24.5 meters tall, or 80 feet. Imagine that, this is like a Godzilla bear, and this frail, skinny, sick dude is about to confront it calmly, no less. Kid Tanjiro is sweating all over as he thinks about how this bear had already eaten 6 people. It was still on the other side of the bells, so Tanjiro could sense him before the bells even rang. Tanjiro explains that his father was ill but faced the bear with a single axe. They didn't even own a hunting rifle. Not only was Tanjiro totally calm with not even a bead of sweat on his face, but he even took pity on the giant bear. He told the bear he's sorry it's hungry, but he will not let it come any closer. He won't show any mercy to anyone who harms his family. If the bear doesn't obey his warning, he will steal its life. Again, he's making it clear it's nothing personal. The bear approaches anyway, and we get a different panel where the bear looks only like it's about twice as big as the father on page 11 of chapter 151. Now, it's unclear if this is an inconsistency on the mangaka's part, like when she forgot that Tanjiro's arm was unusable anymore in chapter 204, or if the point is that it just looked bigger to Kid Tanjiro than it actually was. Either way, it was the biggest bear you ever saw, and it was coming, and Tanjiro effortlessly defeated it by taking its head in a fraction of a second. Tanjiro was shocked at seeing the bear's head as thick as a man's body falling to the ground. He says he couldn't follow the attack, but he thinks his father made 2 cuts in the blink of an eye. Otherwise, it would have been impossible to cut off the head with an axe of that size. Tanjiro also noticed that his father's scent didn't change. Before and after severing the head, there was no fear or ill will in him, no fighting spirit. He maintained his usual calm throughout the process. He was still like a plant, and thus clearly using the selfless state, which I truly feel like he was always walking around in, kind of like how Tanjiro learned to use total concentration breathing all the time instead of in short bursts. Only later does Tanjiro realize that his father was giving him a lesson here of how to see the transparent world. He also told him to never give up thinking things through. Eventually, he can break through any wall with unceasing effort. And then, from this memory, Tanjiro figures out how to maintain access to the transparent world and how to enter the selfless state. Tanjiro explains that the transparent world that his father taught him about dramatically increased the speed with which he could predict moves and evade attacks. Furthermore, we see how in this state time passes slowly for Tanjiro, and he is even able to avoid taking any serious damage from Akaza's finisher move that marked Gyu even calls inescapable after it brings the water Hashira to his knees. Tanjiro goes on to slice off Akaza's head and even tells Akaza he's going to do it beforehand. In this way, he shows it wasn't just some cheap trick, or that it wasn't luck. He made sure Akaza was prepared and then proceeded to outclass him. Tanjiro then gives in to exhaustion and becomes practically powerless until he takes some time to recover. But I wanted to point out the power of the selfless state to illustrate how strong his dad must have been all the time, since as I pointed out, it is suggested that he could maintain this state at the very least from sunset to sunrise during the Dance of the Fire God ritual. So, am I saying that Tanjiro, a dude who possibly had no training in swordsmanship, could have beaten Upper Moon 3 Akaza? Well, yeah, in my mind, he was definitely skilled enough. The only thing he was missing was a Nichirin blade, because we know that non-Nichirin weapons can't actually finish off demons. However, we've seen people like Sanemi use normal weapons to hold a demon off until sunrise and beat them that way. So that was always a possibility for Tanjiro as well, if he ever came across a demon. If you don't take my word for it though, and think I'm overhyping Tanjiro, take Tanjiro's own words. During chapter 192 on page 11, Tanjiro says himself, "I don't have Yoriichi's or father's skill. I don't even know if I could stay alive until dawn," end quote. Not only is he speaking of Yoriichi and Tanjiro in the same sentence in order to suggest how far above him they both are, he's also commenting that he doesn't know if he can last until dawn. He knows that Yoriichi and his dad could last until dawn though, as he's watched his father do many times during the dance ritual. The implication is that both Yoriichi and Tanjiro could maintain the selfless state in this battle, probably without much difficulty, but Tanjiro, as is pointed out multiple times, has trouble getting enough oxygen and is too exhausted to maintain the transparent world and the selfless state. In his case, he has to just do the best he can and rely on help from his comrades. Although Yoriichi is indisputably the peak of demon slaying and the strongest demon slayer of all time, the story makes it clear that Tanjiro, aka Tanjiro's dad, also reached a high level that Tanjiro himself has perhaps glimpsed but hasn't yet fully reached. It's also suggested that Tanjiro was also a kind of more natural successor for Yoriichi, or more of a chosen one than Tanjiro, because as Tanjiro pointed out before, he heard his dad was actually born with a faint mark on his forehead, while Tanjiro only got his after protecting his brother from a falling portable heater on one occasion. And before I pointed out how it doesn't really matter how Tanjiro got it, what matters is that he did develop his mark, and he is a kind of chosen one in the series as much as he wants to deny it. But in his defense, it truly appears like his father had more of the signs and talent you would usually associate with a chosen one than Tanjiro himself. After all, the chosen Sunbreather was supposed to be born with a mark on his forehead, while Tanjiro wasn't and his dad was. The reason Tanjiro's burn-looking mark didn't awaken like Tanjiro's did, in my opinion, is because he didn't actually come into contact with demons. It is only after Tanjiro undertakes the path of the Demon Slayer that his mark eventually evolves and starts to look more and more like Yoriichi's. I think the same thing would have happened with Tanjiro if his parents and siblings were killed and he joined the Demon Slayer Corps to beat Muzan. And it's significant that Tanjiro died before the family was attacked by Muzan, because Tanjiro was arguably skilled enough to make a difference, or at least complicate Muzan's attack on the family. We can't say for sure what would have happened, especially since Tanjiro didn't have a Nichirin blade as far as we know, but I feel like he would have at least been able to distract Muzan long enough for more family members to escape. It definitely seems like he had the speed for that. So if we compare Tanjiro to Yoriichi or even to his own father, he wasn't really a genius and doesn't give off chosen one vibes as hard, which is refreshing about this story. It doesn't have to be a series like Naruto where Naruto has to surpass his dad and everyone else. Tanjiro could just do his best, get help from others, and accomplish his goals without reaching his father's level of mastery, and definitely without reaching Yoriichi's level of mastery. I hope I've shown and proven how overpowered Tanjiro actually was in this video. The reason he is easy to overlook is that A, he died before the story begins and before he confronted any demons, and B, because he, as far as we know, never actually got a Nichirin blade and Demon Slayer training. However, if we pay close attention to the story and take note of what Tanjiro can accomplish when he glimpses the power his father could maintain, then it's clear to see how overpowered he actually was. Yes, he probably could have benefited from a Nichirin blade and swordsmanship training, but he didn't have the need for either in his lifetime, and even without training, we saw what he could do with a tiny axe. So I bet he wouldn't have much trouble adjusting to the sword if he was given the chance. I'd go so far as to say that Tanjiro's dad is the closest anyone got to Yoriichi's level of skill, and it's a shame we didn't get to see his skills transferred over to demon fights, but it was necessary for the story, since Tanjiro wouldn't have been able to improve and struggle if his father became the son Hashira and just wrecked all of the demons for him. So to conclude, Tanjiro's dad was so strong, he had to be killed off before the demon fighting arrived, so that Tanjiro would be forced to grow into his full potential. But also keep in mind, although it was suggested that Tanjiro was naturally more talented in sun breathing than Tanjiro, he was also way older, and only during the last few years of his life had the sunset to sunrise dancing become more or less easy for him. Tanjiro, on the other hand, is only 16 when the story ends, despite everything he's accomplished already, and it's very likely that he'll be just as good at performing the dance and maintaining the selfless state as his father was, given enough time. And that is it for this one. Hope you enjoyed this deep dive into Tanjiro, aka Tanjiro's dad, his skill, and his unrealized but massive potential as a demon slayer. If you did enjoy this video and want to keep them coming, you know what to do. Channel the Demon Slayer Within and smash that like button with no mercy. Remember, smashing that like button is strongest Demon Slayer energy and passing is scared Muzan energy, so choose wisely. Make Tanjiro's dad proud. If you haven't, make this the video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications, or you will miss future Demon Slayer videos and updates, including updates about the very hyped new seasons. And while you wait for the next video to drop, or the next season even, feel free to check out my huge and growing Demon Slayer playlist that includes videos on all the demon moons, Hashira, why everyone is afraid of Tanjiro, Yoriichi's full story, and much more. Link to that is in the description. And until next time, see ya, Space Cowboys.